All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about what is actually in the installer's bag and why. Start over here. Handy dandy laser. Actually comes in its own bag, and I suggest keeping it away from hand tools, but it's definitely worth mentioning. You want to have a self-leveling laser. A 25-foot doesn't necessarily need to be used, but having a thick tape measure is wise for that standout. A decent set of drill and impact driver. This one has a hammer on it. It's only needed if you're going into concrete. An impact driver is only needed when you're really trying to do some rough framing or get screws in that are not going into unique trim. All of our pilot hole bits, this index goes from 1/16 of an inch all the way up to 1/2 of an inch. The ones that we're going to use the most are going to be the 5/64 and the 1/8. We've got a hammer. Don't need anything like a framing hammer, just a little trim hammer will do. A 10-in-1. 10-in-1s are pretty darn important because it kind of covers the board when using a screwdriver. That's also a 5/16 and a 3/8 drive, and this is a 1/4 inch drive. So you really get a lot when you buy a decent 10-in-1. A chisel. 3/8 of an inch is the size that I like to use. Smaller the better. A keyhole saw, if you ever had to cut into sheetrock to either find a wire or put in, say, a panel. A nice mill bastard. This is considered a file or in the file family, but it's a mill bastard. It only works in one direction, and it's great for deburring tube. A torpedo level. These are extremely handy for a lot of different things, and you'll find all of their uses. The bent shears. The bent shears are going to be for cutting and getting any frays off the sides of fabric. A decent small tweaker. You know, there's a company called Extron that made tweakers that if you can find an Extron tweaker, it's probably the best for what we do. I love having extra 3/32 Allen keys around. This is what we use to secure the set screw inside of our floating bracket. Having more than one ensures that you're not going to have to run to Lowe's to get an Allen key to finish an expensive job. This is what's called a tick trace. Once you cut it on, you can put it into a power socket and it will tell you whether or not that power socket is hot or not. I suggest having one when doing construction. This is a toner. This is actually the wand. This is the toner. What a toner does is if you snap these onto a wire on one side and then you take your wand and put it on the other side, you're going to hear that tone. So this noise will, through induction, travel all the way through a wire to the other side so you can label your wires correctly inside of your panel. Obviously, a decent marker and a nice pencil are always going to be helpful when drawing out bracket locations. I like to use tape to mark on so that it's high vis. I like to see where we're going. A decent electrical tape as well is also really good for pulling wire or being able to see anything you've written on that wire in Sharpie. A decent electrical tape is always going to be good for you. I do prefer white over any colors because the white one doesn't typically leave a bad residue and you can write on it and read it. This is just a standard stud finder. Nothing needed to go too crazy here, but if you know where they are, you'll know where to go with your screw. Speed square. They make a metal version of this. It really is a great square to have. The reason why I use a plastic one is because it's less likely to compromise the floor if it falls off my ladder. And it doesn't leave any marring or marks on a what's typically a light colored wall or ceiling. A combination square. Combination squares are great because They're just versatile. I can go 90 up, 90 over. I would make sure that I get one with the level so you can read with the level. You also have a 45-degree angle here, and you have a square end here. Just very versatile tool. Now for the wiring, a decent pair of strippers are going to take you a long way. I do recommend something that strips all the way up to 24, because if you are stripping that data wire, you're going to want that. Crimper cutters. The crimper cutters are for when you're using those dolphin connectors. Those dolphin connectors are going to crimp on the insulated side, not the non-insulated side. You just want to give them a slight crimp so you can open them back up. If you use the non-insulated side, you're not going to be able to open back up. You're going to have to cut them open. And then a decent razor knife. If this razor was to go into sheetrock or concrete or some kind of corrugated cardboard or something, you know, you can always keep a couple extra with you. But having a decent razor knife, just something so that you can cut through that jacket or really whatever surface you need to. Zip ties are always great. You know, some of the fundamentals of panel makeups is making them pretty. Even though we put a cover on it, you want to make sure it looks good. So keeping it tidy with your zip ties is going to be necessary. And then last but certainly not least is going to be the J Geiger Installation Template. We're going to send you one of these with every single order that you make. Please use it. It is a vital tool.